If you're in your 20s or 30s and you diligently save $500 a month, you're doing what you were told was right, but you are also guaranteeing yourself a loss of hundreds of thousands of dollars. There is a simple automated switch that turns that saver into a millionaire. The question is, why was it never explained to you? Miss this one concept and you will spend your entire life trading time for money, thinking saving is the same as building wealth, and never escaping the cycle. Most people stare at $500 a month and think, that's a car payment. How could that ever make me rich? They see it as addition, but they're missing the invisible force that turns addition into multiplication. Picture the top of a long, snow-covered hill. You start rolling a small snowball. For the first few years, it's all you pushing, packing, adding more snow by hand. You feel the cold biting into your fingers. The work feels bigger than the result. That small, dense ball barely moves on its own. You put in $6,000 in a year and it grows to maybe $6,300. That's your first 5 to 10 years investing $500 a month. You're thinking, this isn't working. And this is where most people quit. They don't feel the immediate reward, so they assume the system is broken or that it only works for people richer than them. They pull their money out, go back to just saving, and tell themselves it's safer. They've abandoned the mission 10 feet from the launch pad. Because here's what they never saw coming. After a certain point, that snowball starts collecting its own snow. It gets bigger, faster, entirely on its own momentum. Soon, the snowball is adding more mass than you ever could by hand. Your money starts having babies. Then those babies have babies. This is compound interest. It is the single most powerful and accessible tool for wealth creation that has ever existed, and it is available to anyone with $500 and a brokerage account. The snowball is a useful picture, but talk is cheap. Here are the raw numbers of your $500 a month journey and the exact moment your money starts working harder than you do. Assume you invest $500 every single month into something returning 10% annually. That is the historical average of the S&P 500 going back nearly a century. In year 5, you've put in $30,000. Your portfolio is worth roughly $38,000. Good, not life-changing. In year 10, you've put in $60,000. It's now worth over $100,000. Now the curve is starting to bend. But watch what happens next. That second $100,000 takes less than 5 years. The third takes about 3. The acceleration compounds on itself. Now look at this. This is the crossover point. The moment the money your investments generate each year exceeds the $6,000 you are putting in, you are no longer the primary driver of your own wealth. The system takes over from here. By year 30, your $180,000 in contributions has become nearly $1 million. Give it 5 more years. By year 35, it's over 1.6 million. This isn't a fantasy, it is a proven mathematical path, but the math is worthless without a vehicle. So where exactly do you park the $500? When most people hear investing, they picture themselves hunched over frantic stock charts at midnight, making desperate trades. This is not that. The goal is to build wealth without you noticing. That requires a simple, boring, automated vehicle. Here's what most people get completely wrong. The best strategy for this goal is not being a genius stock picker. Trying to be a genius is actually the fastest way to fail. The data is brutal. An S&P Dow Jones study tracking professional fund managers, Ivy League, educated, teams of analysts, decades of experience found that over a 15-year period, more than 90% of them failed to beat a simple S&P 500 index fund. Did you hear that? Over 90%. The professionals, losing to a fund that just buys everything and does nothing. So the goal is not to outsmart the market. The goal is to own the market and let it do the work. You do that with a low-cost index fund or ETF tracking the S&P 500. Think of it as buying a tiny slice of the 500 largest companies in America simultaneously. You're not betting on one company surviving. You're betting on the American economy growing over the next 30 years, which, historically, it always has. The mechanics are almost offensively simple. 1. Open a brokerage account. 2. Choose a broad market index fund. Vanguard S&P 500 ETF and the Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF are the two most common. 3. Automate the $500 investment every single month. Set it, forget it, that's it. You've just built a wealth-generating system that runs on autopilot while you sleep. This isn't about outsmarting Wall Street. It's about using the systems they created consistently, over time, and letting the market do all the heavy lifting. Before we go any further, drop a comment below. Are you a saver or an investor right now? Just those 2 words. I want to know exactly where you are starting from. Because what I'm about to show you next is the part that will actually shock you, and it has nothing to do with the market. But there is one enemy, one silent wealth killer that can destroy this entire plan, and almost nobody fully internalizes it until it is far too late. The biggest threat to you becoming a millionaire is not a market crash. It is not a bad stock pick, it is waiting. The price of procrastination is so mathematically severe, it will genuinely shock you. Meet two investors, Sarah and Mark. Sarah starts at 25. She invests $500 a month for exactly 10 years. At 35, she stops completely. Never invests another penny. Total out of pocket $60,000. Mark starts at 35, the exact age Sarah stopped. He invests $500 a month for the next 30 years, straight through to age 65. Total out of pocket $180,000. Your brain is already doing the math. Mark invested 3 times more money for 3 times as long. The person who puts in more wins. That logic feels airtight. It is also the reason most people get this catastrophically wrong. Who has more money at 65? Mark invested more. Mark was more disciplined over a longer stretch. Surely Mark wins. At age 65, assuming the same 10% average return, Mark has approximately $987,000, an extraordinary result. Nearly a millionaire after 30 years of consistent investing. But Sarah, who stopped investing 30 years ago, has over $1.6 million. She invested $120,000 less than Mark. She ended up with nearly $700,000 more, because her money had an extra decade to compound. That first 10 years of time was worth more than Mark's entire 30-year contribution career. Your most valuable asset is not your income, it is your time. A 25-year-old earning $50,000 a year, investing $500 a month. That person will retire wealthier than a 35-year-old earning $150,000, investing $1,500 a month. Income is a distraction. Your starting date is everything. The single most powerful move you can make is not earning more, it is starting now. Now, 2 questions always come up at this point, and they are exactly the right ones. What about inflation eating that million? What about a market crash wiping it out? Here is the unfiltered truth. Timelines first. Can you hit $1 million in 20 years on $500 a month? No. That would require an average annual return of 18.4%. We are talking about a 30 to 35-year plan built on realistic 8 to 10% historical averages. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Secondly, inflation. Yes, the purchasing power of $1 million in 30 years will be less than it is today. But this is precisely why you have to invest. Cash sitting in a savings account earning 0.5% is a guaranteed loser against 4% average annual inflation. Investing in a broad market index gives you a fighting chance to outpace inflation and grow your real wealth, not just your nominal balance. And what about right now, when markets feel unstable and every headline is screaming that a crash is coming? There is always a reason to be scared. There is always a reason to wait for a better time. But trying to time the market has been studied exhaustively, and the data is unambiguous. Investors who try to dodge volatility consistently underperform investors who simply stay in. A disciplined, automated system that ignores the daily noise is what separates the people who build wealth from the people who watch it happen to others. Building $1 million isn't about one perfect decision. It's about making one good decision to start automatically investing and then letting decades of time execute the plan for you. You've just seen the math and the simple, accessible path to turning $500 a month into over $1 million. And the hardest part of all of it is starting. The best place to start is a low-cost index fund, either the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF or the Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF placed inside a brokerage account, automated every single month. If this changed how you see money and you got real value from this video, hit the like button and subscribe. This channel breaks down exactly this kind of math every single week. No hype, no gimmicks, just the real numbers. But here's what nobody tells you after showing you the $1 million math. Almost no one reaches their first $100,000. Not because they quit, but because they don't understand why that phase feels so much harder than everything that comes after it. That is what the next video is about. And when you understand it, everything changes. I'll see you in the next one.